What is up, ladies, gentlemen, listeners of the Didn't Ask Podcast? Welcome back to another episode of this right here podcast, the Didn't Ask Podcast. How is everybody doing? I hope you're doing good. I'm feeling a lot better, doing a lot better than I did last week. I think I sound a lot better. Still a lot of mucus and phlegm and shit in my throat. So sometimes I choke a bit on that. But other than that, we're doing really good, right? We're doing great. Again, voice sounds a lot better, not coughing as much anymore, so that's good. Been doing things, been out and about, so that's also very healthy, of course, just getting fresh air, especially with these times where we are in an energy crisis and we're keeping the doors and windows closed to make sure that all the warmth stays inside. And that helps to go outside from time to time, just walk or bicycle or something like that, and just breathe some fresh air. Overall, it's been a very peaceful start of the year, I would say. Of course, with the start of the year, it comes a whole bunch of new beginnings, but that also means that most sporting events are basically on a break as well. This weekend was the first weekend where most sports are starting to do some stuff again. So we had the football competition back up again. So that's good. There was ice skating, but I'm not really into that as much. So that's fine. But yeah, I'm waiting for WWE to pop off, for UFC to pop off, and that should be soon as well. I don't know what the next UFC event is, but it should be somewhere in January. Let me check. June 15th. Yeah, so it's this weekend. We're gonna have Kelvin Gastelum versus Nasruid Imavov. I'm sorry if I butchered your name, dude. I have never heard it before, so it's a hard one for me. I apologize for that. But there are some very fun fighters on that card as well. We cannot, of course, forget about the Misfits boxing event that is this Saturday, and I'm super excited for that. We have KSI stepping back into the ring. He was supposed to face Dildo Dennis, but Dildo Dennis, of course, pulled out because that's what dildos do. And that meant that JJ had to search for a new opponent. Well, there was this whole thing going on with Joe Fournier, I believe his name was, and people saying oh, he was going to fight them. And even Mems Taylor, KSI or JJ's manager, saying oh yeah, that's probably the backup fighter. They went with Face Temper, which is an interesting choice. Face Temper, of course, got knocked out by Slim, but has some very good fights under his belt himself. So I think that this is a very fun fight. I think that this probably should have been the fight that JJ had last time. And then now he should have fought a Joe Fournier or maybe even a Slim or something like that. Just a little step up, you know what I mean? Because it feels like we're pretty much stagnant now with his opponents. And of course, the goal is to face Jake Paul at Wembley Stadium. And I don't think that is gonna... Right now, it doesn't look good for JJ in many ways. Because of course, Jake Paul just signed to the PFL to do their super fight league, whatever the fuck they're gonna do. And he, with that, has offered Nate Diaz a fight, or actually a 2-fight deal, where one would be boxing and one would be MMA. So that would basically fill Jake's whole year up, right? Because they're gonna do it now, and then 6 months they're gonna do boxing first, and then 6 months later they're gonna do MMA. I believe that's how they wanted to do it. So I think that is very unfortunate, and it puts KSI in a very difficult position, because it's just okay, when are we gonna do it then? Because I believe the goal was for JJ and Jake to happen this summer somewhere, and maybe a little after that, maybe the fall, maybe September. But we're getting fucking close to that if we're gonna do Jake and Nate, right? Where they want to do a boxing fight. So let's say that is March, for example. That would put the next fight that they have, the MMA fight, in September, which means that the year is basically done at that point. So then, in all good conscience, if everything is fine with Jake, that means that, okay, we could do it 2 or 3 months later, so it could be a December thing. But that doesn't seem smart if you ask me. But hey, this is not a podcast where I talk to you about boxing, and I certainly don't want to talk to you about Jake Paul. So let's just jump into the questions coming from the Ask Reddit and the Am I the Asshole subreddit for this week. Jumping to the first question asked by user Flowerlock, and they ask, what tattoo is a turn off? And there are quite a few tattoos that are turn offs, but they all, like, for me, it's all very much a thing of nuance, right? Because my first reaction when I saw this question was, oh, I don't like throat tattoos and I don't like face tattoos. So normally speaking, those would be turnoffs. But I think that there are people that can pull those things off really well. And I'm looking at a Ryan Ashley, a Nikki Simpson, a Kelly Doty. Like, I am very impressed with Angel Rose. Like, they're all Ink Master competitors, so don't get me wrong with that. But they all have those tattoos that I would normally hate. But on them, I think it fits, and it fits the character that they are, and it of course fits their job. So I think that there is a lot of nuance with tattoo turnoffs, right? Where, again, if the tattoo fits in their frame, and then if it's placed correctly and it's done correctly, then I'm gonna be very nuanced about that and just gonna be very chill about that. But I think that mostly where the turnoff comes from is when things are incorrect, as in incorrect placement, incorrect application, incorrect spelling. And that's something that the first comment here by Simpliani said, misspelled words. And that is, of course, a very big one where it's just like, oh, God damn it. And the thing is like, I think, again, it's all about the whole picture, right? I think that a huge turnoff for me is that when somebody does have a throat tattoo or a face tattoo and it doesn't fit their whole picture, I think that that is a very important thing for me. Because I've seen people that have gotten throat tattoos and then have basically no tattoos anywhere else. Maybe a small one here or there, and then like on their arm or something like that. And then they have a giant fucking throat piece. And I'm just like, what's the deal here? What are we trying to establish? Like, what are we working at? Because I personally think that that's such a waste of space. Because I think that the throat is something that, of course, you see it prominently, and it does change your demeanor so much that for you to do that, that is a very big step to do. And especially, like I said, if you don't have any other tattoos, I think that it is very sad for you to be picking a spot like that, a very prominent spot, and just be like, okay, let's just ram something on there. Like, I think that it's such a sad move. And again, it doesn't fit the whole frame when it's just like, oh, you're completely tattoo free, and then you have a giant fucking butterfly or whatever the fuck, or a giant shark on your throat. And it's just like, okay, what are we doing here, right? But yeah, like I think that I am a very much a tattoo snob, and that's why I don't have tattoos, because I watched so much Ink Master that I try to basically hold on to all the rules and regulations that they put on, which is like, oh, if you put something on your arm, it needs to face forward, and if you put something on the underarm, it needs to, it needs to face not face downward, but like it needs to be upright if you have your arm down, right? You don't want your arm to be up for it to be readable and stuff like that. There are so many rules, again, and regulations, so to speak, in tattooing that I find so fascinating, and I'm very much a big fan of and a big proponent of, to be like, okay, these are the quote-unquote rules, so you have to abide by those rules. So when something is not following those rules, I personally get a little bit shaky about that, where I just get like, oh, I get a bit nervous. I'm just like, oh, why the fuck did they do that? It's not facing the correct way. The placement isn't correct. The flow isn't correct. There's no movement. There are so many things that I can say about tattoos that are, in my opinion, somewhat turn-offs, because if they're not done correctly by the quote-unquote laws of tattooing, I get a bit nervous again, and that's why I don't have tattoos myself, because I'm gonna be so fucked up when something is gonna be wrong, or the placement is wrong, or I put something somewhere and then that means that I cannot have a sleeve, or that it cannot sleeve correctly, and like, oh, that shit, that's gonna be fucking bothering me. So there are a whole bunch of tattoo turn-offs. But going back to the question asked by user Flowerlock, what tattoo is a turn-off? And I would say things that are misplaced or misspelled, or just like badly done in any shape of the word. Like, again, I am a big fan of the tattoo laws so to speak, where it's just like, okay, things have to face forward, have to stand up right, have to have the right orientation and stuff like that. And if one of those things is off, I get a very bit annoyed by that. But having somebody have something that is like fully misspelled, or again, having a throat tattoo or a face tattoo while not having any other tattoos, that's gonna fucking send me to the fucking moon. So yeah, that would be my answer to you, Flower Lock. Thank you for your question. Moving on to the second question of today, coming from user Feed Baba Booey, and they ask, people who take 20 to 30 minute shits, what are y'all doing in there? So I have Crohn's disease, so for me, it's a whole weird thing where my stomach sometimes doesn't want to do what I want it to do, and my stomach reacts very differently to different types of food sometimes, and it's a very weird thing where it's like I can eat the same thing for a week and then have basically different shits every day because my stomach just reacts differently, and the amount of medication that it's in my system, and etc. and so on. So for me, it's just like sitting on the toilet. Sometimes, yeah, I am in the toilet for quite a while, and that's mostly because either it doesn't come out, or it comes out in a way where it's just like, okay, well, I'm gonna be wiping for fucking 10 minutes, and I'm gonna be sitting here for 15 or 20 because of that, and that is fucking annoying, and it's just like one of those things sometimes that, especially when it doesn't come out, it's just one of those things where it's just like, god damn it. And that's the funny thing with me with my Crohn's disease, is that I didn't really have that many stomach issues. At least I didn't experience them as that before I started using medication. But now I do use medication, and now my whole bowel system is fucked, and everything is very weird. Where I have moments where I just sit, I'm just doing my work and just on my computer, whatever, on my computer, and all of a sudden I have to go to the bathroom like instantly, and I cannot wait any fucking second longer because that's just how it goes. And moments like that, I go to the bathroom and I'm out of there in a minute sometimes, because it just goes very quickly at that point. But sometimes I feel like I have to go, and it feels like it's ready to go, but then it just doesn't come out, and then it takes a little bit more time and work for me to get it out, which sounds very disgusting. Apologies for that one. But like, yeah, it sometimes that happens, and then again, the wiping process, sometimes it's just a real big mess. So that would be my answer to you. Feed Baba Booey. People who take 20 to 30 minutes to shit, what are y'all doing in there? Well, again, I have Crohn's disease, so I have bowel issues where sometimes things come out very quickly, sometimes it takes very long, and sometimes they come out in weird forms which take me minutes to fucking clean up. So when that happens, I'm playing some WWE Supercard, keep up with my fucking thing, read my Twitter feed, go through my Facebook stuff, like do stuff like that. Like sometimes it's just a mess, it's just a mess, and that's the thing that we have to deal with. But we got medication, and hopefully my medication is going to do its work better, especially so that we hopefully don't have this issue in the near future. But hey, we shall see how that is going to turn out. Thank you for your question. Moving on to the third question of the day, coming from user Yourmoon162711, and they ask, if there's an American dream, what's the American nightmare? It's Cody Rhodes! Adrenaline in the wind, no, that was the thing that I saw this question. I was like, man, the easy answer is Cody Rhodes, of course. And it took me quite a while. Like, I had to legitimately word search for Cody Rhodes, but somebody said it, and I'm gonna do it again because I gotta have give this person credit. And the person was Zoomer the Doomer, who said Cody Rhodes, because he's, of course, the American Nightmare. And if you're a WWE fan and you're watching WWE, we haven't seen Cody in a very long time because Cody had a torn bicep, I think, that has put him out of business for a very long time now. So hopefully we're going to see him at the Royal Rumble. Small chance, I think. I don't know what the recovery time is for a torn bicep, but I think it was a torn bicep. Maybe it was a rotator cuff, but I think it was a bicep. Anywho's, I hope to see him at the Royal Rumble. If not, I hope to see him at Money in the Bank, because Money in the Bank is in July, and it's in London, which is fucking amazing. because of course I live in Amsterdam, very close to London. I booked everything for the trip. I don't have tickets yet because the official tickets haven't gone on sale, like the regular tickets haven't gone on sale. So I'm hoping that I'm gonna get tickets for this because I'm very excited to go. I'm in luck, but also in disfortunate because I am going alone, which in some cases should help me get a ticket because I can just get any single ticket that's left. So hopefully I can get in that way. But also it could be a mess in the sense that sometimes they do this, which they were doing for the premium tickets that they are selling now. They're doing basically a couple tickets where it's just like, oh, you can only buy two or either larger amounts. So one ticket is very hard to do. So hopefully I can get a ticket and go to the Money in the Bank pay-per-view for WWE because, man, I love that pay-per-view and seeing that shit live is going to be absolutely fantastic. It would be my second pay-per-view as well because I went to technically more pay-per-views, but like this would technically be my second pay-per-view or premium live event, as they're calling it now, because I went to SummerSlam a couple of years ago, which was also very fun. So yeah, I would love to go to Money in the Bank. So please, WWE, please give me the ability to buy a ticket because I am ready to go. Like I got a hotel booked, I got my train ticket booked, which is also a thing that I'm doing for the first time now. This is the fourth time I'm going to London, and I have always gone by plane because planes are very cheap here. But now I was just like, hey, I'm just going to go by train because I really wanted to check that out. And I've never gone by train somewhere like far, far away. And hopefully it's also going to help me with bringing back some nice goodies because I'm looking for Prime. I'm going to look for XIX vodka. I'm going to look for squashies. I'm going to buy all that shit. You know, we're going to get that. But let's just go back to the question because this is not a question about wrestling. It is not a question about wrestling, believe it or not. If there is an American dream, what's the American nightmare? Of course, the American dream is going to America, living the dream in America, becoming successful, being able to provide for your family and stuff like that. What's the American nightmare? I think the American nightmare is the fucking United States healthcare system and how it just absolutely abuses its power and how it bankrupts people. I think that is the American nightmare. Just living the American dream, so to speak, getting in a fucking car accident and then being fucking broken down and just fucking taking money from you to fucking oblivion. I think that is the American nightmare as I see it, because that's always the thing that I am very afraid of. And we have pretty good healthcare system here in the Netherlands where we have systems in place so that people that have lower incomes can get money to pay for their insurance and stuff like that. But still, I've always had that fear of going to a hospital and then being like, oh fuck, you have to pay fucking thousands of bucks because you took an ambulance. Luckily, that isn't the case in here where it's just like, that's fantastic. But that's the case in the US. So that's, again, the thing that I'm mostly afraid of for going to the US, where it's just like, oh, I get in a fucking car accident and all of a sudden I have to pay fucking $30,000 in fucking payments and I don't have that money laying around, and then you get fucking payment issues and then you're fucking bankrupt by the time you know it. So going back to the question asked by YourMoon162711, if there's an American dream, what's the American nightmare? And I would say getting in some form of a medical issue and then having to pay out of your fucking ass for that shit. Again, I have Crohn's disease and I'm very happy that I'm living in the Netherlands where my medication just gets paid for by my insurance company and I have no fucking things to have to deal with. But fuck me, if I would be living in the US, I would be paying out of my fucking ass for those things. Luckily, there are people like Mark Cuban who are trying to fucking fix that shit for at least medication. But their healthcare system needs to get a lot better. Thank you for your question, though. Moving on to the fourth question of today, coming from user Generic, and they ask, what are some red flags in an interview that reveal the job is toxic? I have been looking at job listings for a while now, and I've always found it a red flag when the job listing says, this is not a 9-to-5 job, or like something like that, where it's like, you're not into 9-to-5 jobs. And I'm just like, first off, what the fuck does that mean? Like, what are my actual times that I will be working? Also, I think that a 9-to-5 job gets a really bad reputation from all the shit that we have seen throughout like media and again on these fucking job listings. But to me, I would like having a 9-to-5 job is absolutely fantastic. Like just clocking in at 9, doing your job, and then clocking out at 5, and then just living your life, not being able to fucking get bothered by anything. That's fucking fantastic. Because, like, I work PR now, and I've told this in the past, I believe, where it's just like I have a 9 to 5 job, which is like the regular job, but sometimes there are some things that happen after hours or before hours, and then we have to pick that shit up. So I have a little bit of both, not the best of both, well, don't get me wrong, but like I have a bit of both where on the normal occasions I can just clock out at like 5 or 6 and just be good for the rest of the night until the next morning breaks on and then we start working again. But there have been moments where it's just like, oh fuck, this has to be done, or we have to keep an eye out on this, or this is going on, we have to figure out what's going on, and then you're up late and just doing shit till fucking 9 or 10 at night, and then just getting up the following morning at fucking 9 because you have to clock in again. And that shit does happen in PR. So I think that a job listing saying like, this is not you don't want a 9 to 5 job, or this is not, I think that is, in my opinion, a kind of a red flag. I think it is one of those things where it's just like, man, I just want to have a 9 to 5 job. I guess that people don't want 9 to 5 jobs, but 9 out of 10 times when it doesn't say like, it's just like, you don't want a 9 to 5 job, then you're going to be working fucking obscene hours. And I am not a big fan of that. So going back to the question asked by user Deneric, what are some red flags in an interview that reveal the job as toxic? I would say that they're pushing on like the 9 to 5 hourness of the job. I think that is a big red flag, because that means that you're going to be bothering me in my weekends, and I don't really want that. So yeah, thank you for your question. Moving on to the final question of the Ask Reddit for today, coming from user Slam Dunk Cactus. And they ask, you wake up tomorrow as a house cat living in a comfy home with a nice couple. You have all the knowledge you have now. What do you do? Personally, I would just be fucking living like fucking Garfield. What is holding me back from doing that? Dude, I'm gonna just be waiting for them to go to work. I'm gonna fucking turn on my TV, just gonna watch some TV, and then when they get home, just turn off the TV and just gonna be chilling. Like, I think that living as a house cat, and I have a house cat, and he is living a fantastic life. I can tell you that much. My man is doing fuck all day, and he's enjoying it, and then he's complaining about food and candy. Like, what the fuck, dude? It's one of those fucking things where it's just like, yeah, I would just be living my best life. Just not having to work is fucking great. Just getting fed on time. Again, having the knowledge that I have now as that cat as well. Bro, I'm going to be watching Disney Plus and shit, bro. I'm going to be watching fucking Monday Night Football. What the fuck are we doing, guys? I will be living my best Garfield life. So, this is a very short answer, but that's the only answer I can give. So, going back to the question asked by user Slamdunk Cactus. You wake up tomorrow as a house cat living in a comfy home with a nice couple. You have all the knowledge you have now. What do you do? I would be living my best Garfield fucking life. Would be laying on my ass all day watching TV and then just chilling. Just getting warm, getting fed. I feel like that's the house we all want to live in, you know? That's the life. Living the life as a house cat sounds pretty fun if you are in a good situation like my cat is. Thank you for your question, Slam Dunk Cactus. And now moving on to the final question of today, coming from user Throw Husband 2, and they ask, am I the asshole for telling my parents that they ruined the New Year's celebration after they kicked my husband out over a joke? I have been married to my second husband Mike for 4 years now. He's a jokester and loves to crack jokes all the time. He especially likes to joke with my brother Ethan and his wife. Ethan used to be okay with it till he started complaining about Mike taking it too far with his jokes. Some context about Ethan: he and his wife couldn't have kids, so they adopted a boy, Joey, 2 years ago. Mike has been making silly, lighthearted jokes that involve Joey's biological parents as a way to mess with Ethan and his wife. I already talked to Mike and told him that he 100% means no harm, and he was just trying to get him a reaction. So fast forward to New Year's Eve. My parents hosted a big celebration dinner and Ethan and his wife came over. While we were eating dinner, Mike decided to tell a knock-knock joke to Ethan. He said, knock knock. Ethan laughed and said, who's there? Mike replied, Joey's biological parents, and he bursted out laughing. Silence took over and Ethan's facial expressions changed. His wife called Mike an idiot, to which Mike replied with, hey, relax, it was just a joke. An argument ensued and dinner was paused. My parents suddenly told Mike to leave, which I thought was too harsh. I tried to speak to them and to get them to calm down, but my mom insisted that Mike leave. We left and Mike was complaining the whole time about how they overreacted. I called mom later and she told me Mike was out of line with his hurtful jokes about this touchy subject and told me I was wrong for defending him and saying he was just joking. She said he ruined New Year's Eve for the family, but I told her it was her and dad who ruined New Year's celebration for escalating the situation and kicking him out. I told her he could talk to them, but again, they were the ones who ruined New Year's celebration. She called me delusional for this statement and hung up. We haven't talked to them for days. I tried contacting Ethan, but no response. Am I the asshole? Simple answer to your question. Yes, you are the fucking asshole. At the beginning of your message, you say, my husband is a little bit of a joker. He especially likes to joke with my brother Ethan and his wife. Ethan used to be okay with it until he started complaining about Mike taking it too far with his jokes. Which means that your brother, Ethan, has already complained to you about the jokes that Mike was making. Which means that you know that Ethan doesn't like these jokes, right? So that means that either he complained to you about the jokes and you have not said anything, or he said it to Mike himself and then Mike just ignored it. So there is a big red flag in this situation where it's just like, you people, and I'm talking about the original poster and husband Mike, are very insensitive. Also, I'm a big fan of comedy. Like, I worked on a comedy show, and I've said this on this podcast in the past before. Like, I worked on a comedy show. I know what comedy is. I've watched a lot of comedy specials. I've watched a lot of sketch shows, and I've done a whole bunch of comedy things. There are certain jokes that are offensive, of course, but like could still be like, oh, that's funny, or oh my god, they said that. The shit that Mike was telling at the dinner table wasn't even a joke. That's not a joke. There is no punchline there. Which means that you're just offending somebody now. Like, you're not even making a joke. You're just trying to be hurtful now. Because you're just doing nothing. The joke was, knock knock, who's there? Joey's biological parents. That's a joke? And you, original poster, are defending this? In what fucking world should you be defending this behavior? Mike is an insensitive prick. And you, original poster, are part of the fucking problem. Because, again, your brother Ethan has said that he doesn't like the jokes that Mike has made in the past because they go too far and they're very insensitive. And now they're doing it on New Year's Eve while people are having dinner for no reason. Like, I think that there is something going on with Mike where he's like very insecure or very insensitive. Or maybe both. Because this is not normal behavior. Like, first off, the joke wasn't a joke. So you're just making a very mean comment, because there is no joke that you're making here. I think that you original poster, not saying something like, again, you're saying that Ethan, your brother, has complained about the jokes that Mike was making in the past, which means that there have been issues before with Mike making insensitive jokes, or at least jokes that weren't in the right time and place, and you have either not said anything about this or Mike knows about it and just doesn't give a fuck. So the fact that you are defending that makes it even worse. So I'm going to tell you, yes, throw the husband too. You are the fucking asshole. Thank you for your question, though. And that's going to do it for the Didn't Ask podcast for this week. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you did, please leave a rating on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, because both places give you the ability to leave a rating to help this show out. You can find this show on all your favorite podcast platforms, but you can go to anchor.fm to see an overview of all of them. This podcast is available on Pocket Cast, on Podcast Addict, on Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Amazon Podcast, Stitcher, you name it. It's fucking everywhere. If it's not, go to anchor.fm. That link will be in the show description. Over here, there is a button that says message. You can let me know on what podcast platform this show isn't available on, so I can try and do my best to get this podcast on there as soon as possible. You can also use that message button to ask me a personal question. You can press that button and then record a voice memo so I can splice that into the show. If you don't want your voice to be heard on this right here show, I can totally understand that. Just say it somewhere in your message and I'll just read your message out myself, so you can still get your questions answered but stay anonymous on this show. Well, that's going to do it for me for this week. I will be back next week, and in the meantime, and in between time, you can go to tracked.tv, that link will also be in the show description, to see all the TV shows and movies that I'm watching throughout the week. I just finished His Dark Material, so that was really fun to go through. I finished Shaman King, That was fun. I am currently still watching The Circle on Netflix. That is also a very interesting watch. So there is enough shows for you to keep up on and maybe even ask me a question about. Okay, that's going to do it for me for now. Hope to see you back next time. Thanks for listening and goodbye.